Okay, well, for anybody who's coming in, I just want to say that I am reaching out to a dear friend across the globe today. And Casey Mauro is joining me. Casey and I met many years ago when she decided to research my program, Yoga and the Healing Sciences, and research and make sure I was for real. and and I don't know what she found out since then, but you know me really well now. But I will say that we've shared a lot ever since we met, and we both have a great passion for not just yoga and yoga therapy these days, but also for neurology. And I know in my own life, I almost went into training in neurology when I was going to go back to school after being a yoga teacher for a long time, after having a severe car accident. And it changed my life, it rocked my world, and I almost ended up being a neurologist, and instead turned to Chinese medicine as one of my paths with what I do. And then Casey came into my life and told me that she was training in neurology and was on a path of healing. And we have been both dedicated to how to immerse ourselves in honoring ancient traditions, learning as much as we can about the ancient traditions, but also keeping a great awareness for current wisdom and knowledge that we can find both from the East and the West over time. So I also want to just acknowledge too, Casey, that you have been assistant director to my program the last few years, brilliantly, beautifully. And here you are in Bali now on your adventure, but you will still be assisting in this upcoming training in the fall. I'm just hoping you can share about the journey you're on and the journey you've been on, because I want everyone to know about it. And I love what you're offering in the world these days with neurology and breath work and yoga.
It's been quite a journey for sure. And I was just journeying away. I live with 5 sausage dogs and they were all starting to bark. So that's why I journeyed away from them. And yeah, I'm in Bali right now living with 5 sausage dogs. And if you told me last year that I was going to be here doing this, I'd have been like, you're crazy. That's not happening. We're going to be in LA doing our thing. And similar to when we first met, I put faith and trust in you because I was very skeptical about these yoga people and these yoga programs. I'm a scientist. I want empirical data. I want to be able to graph it and chart it all and know what I'm getting out of it. And I got that and then some, because coming from a very intellectual headspace all the time, but there's been life experiences like my concussion that made me realize there's more to just the intellectual, because I started to have feelings and you have these little inner gut knowings. And so coming from a neurology, neuroscience, biology background, I was like, gung-ho, I'm going to be a neurologist. This stuff is so cool. And then I kneed myself in the face and got a concussion and had an experience with the neurologist to his resolution to my concussion after 3 months of it not being treated because I didn't pass out. So they were like, you're fine. Just go back to doing what you do. It really took me down 3 months later. And that's when I was like scooped up. My mom picked me up literally from my 5th floor apartment in New York and had to carry me down the stairs and drive me back to New Jersey. And then I went to the neurologist and they were like, oh, well, you're dizzy all the time? Yeah. Just don't dance anymore. And here's some vertigo pills. That was their answer. And I was like, I'm done with you, neurology world. Done. That's not the answer. I'm going to continue dancing. And that triggered me to find alternative means for healing, but still using the knowledge of the neuroscience. That's very important, but not in the modality of the Western medicine neurological field. And lots happened since then. And I ended up moving to LA and finding yoga in the sense of the program to do a 200-hour training. And I was very adamant about the education of it, the intellectualization of it. And you swindled me in because you said the word science. And I got that and this experience that probably can't even put into words because it's such an embodied experience that the 26 letters in the English language have no justice for. And it made me realize now that it's a process, and living fully and completely, having the Western, the intellectualization of knowledge, and having the embodiment of that knowledge turns into you being and actually living. And the yogic side of things and the ancient traditions are very much in the embodiment of these practices that we do every single day. And it's not a quick fix in a pill. And it's not just enough to know how to do these things. We teach a lot of knowing things, even in the program, right? It's important to know these things. But now, can you actually put it into practice? And that's the golden nuggets right there. And I've learned, especially now being in Bali, when I don't have as much of the intellectual stuff happening and everything is swiped up I have a backpack, Terra, of things. That's it. Nothing else. You have to really be creative and learn to embody these practices to get the effectiveness of it. There's routines and there's rituals every day that happen over here. And that is allowing me to have these aha moments of all that intellectualization and conversations that we've had like years ago now, probably, just like sitting on your stairs late at night, having these deep conversations that didn't quite make sense to me. But now all of a sudden I'll be surfing or I'll be in a waterfall somewhere and I'll be like, oh, I'll have an experience internally that's like, that's what Terra meant. Oh my gosh.
I know what you're saying, and I've had so many of those over the years too, of those ahas of, oh, now that makes sense, right? From our mentors and teachers and people that have gone before us and explored and share their wisdom. And that said, I will say that you said something, you've said this to me before, and I wanted to bring it forth today, that you've had this sense of intelligence, but you placed it more in your head, right? Or the sense of it being more in the mind. And I know that one of the things we emphasize a lot in the yoga and the healing sciences is how much wisdom and understanding is embodied in different layers. And there are the koshas in yoga, which talk about different layers of embodiment, different more subtler realms versus the more denser levels of the body. And I guess I'm wondering how that has shifted for you, how that concept and how you feel about your experience of life has shifted since trying that on as a way of perspective in your life.
Yeah, we've got many layers, many layers. And we are really good, or I was really good at the external layer, especially as a performer and professional dancer. It was what the picture looked like, right? It didn't matter if you were in pain or anything that was going on deeper, like the show must go on. And the more I practice and embody all of these ancient practices and using the knowledge that I have, you can feel it getting deeper and deeper and deeper within you, like the koshas. But it's so subtle, Terra. It's not a big song and dance. And that requires patience and trust. Two things I am not particularly great at, and I'm getting better. Trusting people and trusting circumstances without data and an assurance to back it up, that goes really great with an anxious mind. But let me tell you, they are best friends. And Bali just kind of puts this like big wha-bam on you and makes you actually slow down. It probably took me about a month to slow down. So when I got here originally and I thought I was going to be here for a month, and then 2 weeks in, I was like, oh no, I'm not going back. I'm just starting to slow down, and I like this space. And so being able to work on these subtle levels takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. And it's frustrating as all heck. But doing it every single day, I'm slowly reprogramming my body and my mind to this new way. And I'm having these like exuberant discoveries internally of these aha moments, this deep knowing of consciousness that is our inner gut feeling. When you have a gut feeling about something. And now I'm able to listen to it and take action to listen to it instead of pushing it aside. And having the objective awareness to say, okay, I hear this. Am I going to do something about it? Or am I just going to suck it up and keep going? And more, I'm able to make that change. I'm able to say no to a situation or create my barrier and my boundary. which before would have taken me like 3 years, or I'd be stuck in a job for 2.5, 3 years. And then like, as soon as I was burnt out or injured, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Now in like one day, if something doesn't sit right, I'm like, bye, see ya.
Mm-hmm.
And you become so sensitive. I cry, Terra, like a lot. It's weird still, but this sensitivity is so clear, and it makes my path of where I'm headed with my life so much easier. Easier in the sense of I know where I'm going. It's still like climbing, you know, I've free climbed the side of a volcano, 9,000 feet in the sky. And that's kind of what it feels like going through this journey. It's beautiful, but it's so scary. And if you look back and hesitate, you're done. You have to be all in. And every single day you practice and you go back to it. And not every day is easy. Some days I'm exhausted and burnt out just because of my mental struggle trying to fight what's happening internally inside of me, or this practice that I know is better for me, even though it's painful, because we want to go back to the old way.
Right.
And so these subtleties of this conscious awareness, it's so deep. You can feel it inside of you, but then that fire becomes more important than like the stuff coming at you externally. And that's when those signs come from the universe and you're like, okay, this is worth it.
Mm-hmm. What you're describing, I've heard, I've shared in the program with people my own experiences of this throughout, you know, being introduced to yoga very young and many practices young. A lot of things got awakened, and as you describe it, I think of key turning points in my life and through deeper and deeper practices where it's taken me into these layers. And I've heard people in the program that we share with people how much they go through that. They go through it in the program. Something gets activated and opened that then continues onward past the program, and we stay in touch, and there's community. And I wonder if you can speak to where you are with it now, because that's all we know, right? Where you are now. So if you were to say anything to anyone about what you're appreciating most about just the path you're on, what would it be?
I love that you said the word community, because that is one very prominent word. Community and freedom is what I appreciate most right now in my life, and I'm bringing in and embodying daily. I've never felt like I fit in everywhere. I was kind of always like a social floater. You know, I had like my surf friends, my dance friends, my yoga friends, my friends that I grew up with from home, and we all have these moments that we can share together, but I never quite felt like complete anywhere. And it was because we're all on our different journey. And right now, where I'm at in my journey, I'm surrounded by people who support my journey and are either have been through the journey or are going through it at a similar pace as I am. And the nature we are surrounded by in Bali is the largest support system. Surfing in a waterfall at the beach, I feel like Mama Bali, we call her Mama Bali, is just giving me a big hug all the time. And it's really strengthened my importance in community. And when we sit in circle for ceremony, it's my favorite Friday night. Like I go out on Friday nights now, and it's sitting in circle and ceremony, and there's drums and there's cacao, and everybody's in this heightened state of consciousness. And it feels like home for the first time ever, because it's a deep seated home in my heart. And I think we're all kind of looking for that, or trying to bring it out, not looking for it. We all have it inside of us. So finding daily things that we can do to bring out this self surrounded by a community that supports that is, I think we're living. I feel like I'm finally living. I've come up from the dead.
For me, I found that the yoga practices and the kind of healing practices that we also practice and keep studying over the years that you and I have shared and that we share in the program also foster that, where you start finding that your life is your inner life that you had hoped it could be, right? That your life out here and the inner life, that there's a dance that's mirroring the inner and outer process is such a perfect mirror for each other, right? That then you start to navigate life in a very different way. I'm saying this you, me, but I mean me. That's my experience. And I'm curious if you can relate.
Yes. And Looks like that's a great way to end our little conversation right now, Tara. Finding community.
Perfect. Let's do it. Love to you.
Love you, Tara.